Good morning to you. It's good to see you here on Up with KREM. I'm Tim Pham.
And I'm Channing Curtis. Let's get you ready for the day ahead with a look at the forecast. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick, busy as always in the Weather Center, but especially on this leap day.
Leap day, last day of February, Thomas, my goodness.
Yeah, I just had to tack on one more day of winter before meteorological spring. Isn't that right? Well, today it's actually quite warm outside already this morning, and it's because of those winds, which have remained decently strong through the overnight hours. Most of our wind gusts have been around 30 miles per hour, but they still have the potential to hit that 50 mile per hour mark between now and 10 a.m. And that's when our wind advisory goes into. At the same time, the rain has not quit, but it is covering about half of the region at the moment. Spokane faring a bit drier, but plenty of rain, especially north of I-90 through northeastern Washington. But as noted, right now, it's 46 degrees. It's pretty warm, but this is our warmest point of the day. As the winds slow down, so too does that warmth feed. So our temperatures will drop through the day, as we'll still see some scattered rainfall throughout.
Today, 2 disaster outreach centers for survivors of the Gray and Oregon road fires will open.
The centers will open in both Elk, Chattaroy, and Medical Lake communities. The centers will help connect survivors of the wildfires to resources to help their recovery. So on your screen here, you can see the addresses and hours. The Elk Disaster Center will be located at the Country Church of the Open Bible, and the one in Medical Lake will be at City Hall. The application for online disaster relief is already open. You can find that link by texting the word AID, AID, to 509-448-2000, and we will send that link right to your phone.
Lawmakers are set to vote today on a tentative deal to keep the government from shutting down tomorrow. The plan would fund one set of federal agencies through March 8th and another set through March 22nd. Right now, funding for much of the government is set to expire this weekend and next week for other agencies. Of course, we'll keep you updated on how today's vote goes. Well, it looks like the trial for Brian Kohberger will not happen until next year. He's the man accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. Yesterday, the state proposed a trial start date of March 2025, but the defense pushed back, saying that they need more time. The judge did not make a decision. He also didn't say if the trial will be moved out of Latah County. The state and judge are both against the move, but the judge says that he will still hear the defense's arguments. Kohberger is now due back in court in May.
Just hours ago, while you were sleeping at midnight, the death warrant for Idaho's longest-serving death row inmate expired with no execution. Corrections officials called off Thomas Creech's execution when the medical team could not find a vein for the lethal injection. They tried 8 times with no success. Right now, the IDOC is not saying when the execution will carry on. Meanwhile, Creech's defense issuing a new motion to call it off. At KREM 2, we bring you more to every story. Last year, the Idaho legislature passed a law to allow prisons to use a firing squad as a method of execution. Under that law, a firing squad can only be used under 2 circumstances: if the state cannot get lethal injection drugs, or if lethal injections are ever ruled unconstitutional. In this case, the state had the drug, they just couldn't administer them. Even if they were legally allowed to use a firing squad in this case, the head of Idaho's Department of Correction says it just isn't a practical option yet.
We do not have the facilities or physical capabilities of carrying out firing squad, and we'll continue to work on those efforts. But again, our efforts have been focused on carrying out the death penalty under the methods that are prescribed under state law today.
The state legislature set aside $750,000 to build firing squad facilities, but no word yet on when those will be complete.
At 6:05, let's take a look at your morning rush. More news in less time. The Washington Attorney General's office could soon launch a new hate crimes hotline. State lawmakers approved legislation that is now heading to the governor's desk. The Attorney General says the hotline will create a centralized place for people all over the state of Washington to report hate crimes and bias incidents. If Governor Inslee signs the bill into law, it would be available statewide by 2027. Well, Coeur d'Alene police say crime is continuing to fall in record low numbers within the city. According to our news partners at the Coeur d'Alene Press, crimes like aggravated assault, arson, burglary, and robbery dropped a little more than 3% in 2023. The Coeur d'Alene police chief says quick emergency response times, community engagement, and being proactive in finding felons has led to the drop. And someone pranked the city of Spokane. Take a look at this traffic sign near Audubon Park that was hacked. The message of choice says, a warning, angry raccoons ahead. Now, it's unclear what exactly they were referring to, if anything. Crews did correct the sign within just a few hours, and that's a look at your morning rush. Spokane Valley is one of the fastest growing cities in Washington, but the size of its police force just hasn't kept up. Tuesday night, city council members gave the go-ahead on the first phase of beefing up the department.
In this morning's Boomtown coverage, KREM 2's Shannon Mowdy shows us how the city is prioritizing public safety and reprioritizing some budgets.
After months of discussion, Spokane Valley is taking the first steps to bulk up its police force. Tuesday night, City Council approved hiring the first set of new officers.
The Spokane Valley Police Department will now start recruiting 10 more patrol officers. But that's just a fraction of the more than 24 a consulting firm says is needed to meet the city's growing population and growing calls for service.
Response times are getting longer, and the amount of time for officer-initiated calls is getting smaller.
Spokane Valley's population has risen 22% since 2007, while police calls rose 17% in the last 7 years. Assistant Chief Sean Walter says it's not just more calls, but a rise in serious crisis and behavioral health responses.
Our officers are increasingly dealing with those types of calls, and those can be very time-consuming, resource-intensive.
The 10 new positions will cost more than $2 million every year, and a one-time cost of $624,000. Council voted to use general funds that have historically supplemented street projects.
The roads shouldn't see too much of a change. We had to reprioritize some of our preservation accounts going into there, so we may focus more on pothole and maintenance repair.
We're going to defer some projects that aren't high priority, maybe till next year.
A new $20 car tab fee takes effect in July. That'll add more than $2 million to the street's budget. It's the next phase, adding another dozen or so police positions that may prove challenging.
I feel like this kind of stretched our budget to figure out how we can fund, so 10 was kind of the max without affecting other levels of service. As we go to look at how we're going to do the next 18 positions, we're going to have to start looking at some other revenue.
Next month, the city will begin gathering public input on what citizens want to see with the police force and how they'd be willing to fund even more hires. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Well, this morning it's definitely windy and warm outside. Our temperatures are well into the mid-40s, and for some, as you'll see, in the 50s this morning, so you don't need the hat or the gloves out there, but you still might need some form of rain gear. It's still raining, it is still windy this morning with our sustained winds at around 15 to 20 miles per hour. We've noted some wind gusts above 30, so that is what you'll notice as you step outside, along with these decently mild temperatures from 46 in Spokane to 51 in Ritzville. A little bit cooler in some North Idaho spots where those winds haven't quite been as strong, namely out of Sandpoint, where you're at 34. Your temperatures will increase today. Everyone else is probably going to drop as those winds do decline later on for this afternoon. It's the wind that is providing the warmth this morning with our temperatures in the mid-40s, but we're downhill heading into the weekend. This first week of March is looking a little cooler than average, and we'll still have a fair share of some snow chances, the best of which will be on Saturday. But we'll break down these next 24 hours and when the rain and the wind will calm down in just a few minutes.